request Mr. Vittal Raj, please join us. Good morning, dear friends. On behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I extend a very warm welcome to you. Kindly stand up for our ICI motto and Tamil Thai Varthu.
நீராறும் கடலொடுத்த நிலமடந்து எழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் வதனமென நிகழ்வரத கண்டமிழே எக்களமும் அதிசிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாளும் தக்க சிறு பிறையுணரும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம் மிகுந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே
येष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति येष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति कामं 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 कामपुरुषो पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः निर्मिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं परब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शितः सर्वे तदुपात्यति कश्चन एतद्द्वैत 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 एतद्द्वैत
I request the office, please guide the members so that all the remaining seats to be occupied. They are waiting outside. On behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I extend a very warm welcome for all of you for this CPE National Conference. In fact, I was out of station for the last 11 days, including 6 days we have to be in Kerala in connection with our Central Council meeting. So the officers, we asked them to find out from the hotel also, all the 5 days it's not available, any hotels, considering it is December and January. I always organize programs in the month of December. In fact, left to myself, I would always like to keep a, without charging fees only. Our regional council, I waited for Madurai conference to get over, otherwise unduly it will affect. But before 31st December, we have to do to get the best region award for the regional council. It has to be done 2 national conferences. So I always ensure that other committees organize program and we keep the last remaining 5 days, wherein the top speakers from all over India will come. Although I have not mentioned the speakers, Girish Ahuja sir is coming and he will be speaking on, it is really out of the world, which you have to, and Mr. Ved Jain will be there, Mr. Sunil Talati from Ahmedabad will be coming, Mr. Goyal will be coming from Delhi, advocate, and we have got expert speakers. We will have Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Mr. Jai Shankar, Principal Chief Commissioner, Director General Investigation, Director Investigation, Commissioner of Income Tax Trivandrum, Mr. Selva Ganesh, who is the most experienced person who did the maximum search operations, survey operations for the longest period possible in the entire income tax department. He is coming from Trivandrum. So the idea being to give the best unexplained cash credit, survey, search and seizure from the department perspective, from the professional perspective, like that real estate, like the share investment. What is exactly today which is relevant for a practicing chartered accountant? Project report, if you want to do, stepwise how to proceed in preparing a project report for sure bank finance. We don't want to do something which is theoretical. Always I find people come in large numbers for bank audit because they are getting an appointment letter in hand. Then when they hear the discussions, it has got some relevance. So the topics, what we have chosen is relevant. All the 5 days we have house property, even salaries, income from other sources, which are all the heads under what circumstances. Suppose some MLA is coming to you, some MP is coming to you, or some property is subleased where it should be. Small thing, you will be knowing everything. But then it should be summed up and presented by way of a paper. That we are trying to do. And not only that, for your information, we are telling you got a 40 hours CPE credit, and here very nominally we kept it some 300 rupees plus per day, what we have kept. In fact, I told the SARC, I don't want to charge, it is totally sponsored. Our corporate sponsors are there, our CPE is there. So our idea is to ensure more and more people should come and benefit. People who suppose if they cannot sit also, no problem. The idea is you have to make them sign and all that. I always believe the program should sell on its merit, and who is who of the city should come, who is who of the person who decides your matter should come, so that that networking relationship building should be transformed into action. From that perspective, the 5 days programs have been kept. You get the CPE credit, you will have a networking facility, have throughout tea, coffee also arranged. There is no tea break. Anytime you want to go, you can have it after 10:30. And in addition to that, we have 5 webinars we are organizing. After the program is over, 5:30, 6 o'clock webinar is there. You can sign the register. You can get 2 hours credit daily. All topics excellent. The first one today, we have a webinar, Art of Preparation and Filing of Appeal under the Income Tax Act, appeals before CIT appeals and ITAT. Mr. G. Ramaswamy, past President ICI, will be giving, and the materials, how it is done. There is an ICI TV where that is stored, that will be stored, whatever. Suppose if you want to know CIT appeals, what is the procedure, you can just go there and you can download. And if you got a CDs also, that CD. Suppose investment strategies, we had Mr. Pattabhiram. So everything will be there by CD also. You get unstructured credit. When the program is on, I requested the office to keep the Brahmaya Hall so that if you want, you can witness in the screen. The studios have been set up in the first floor in the council room. So everything under studio conditions, we are recording it. We are giving free also, and it will be distributed at the end of the program. If they are able to give the copy of the presentation, immediately we can take the CD of individual programs we give also. And this webinar also, all current topics. Today, Mr. G. Ramaswamy, 6 to 8. If you can throw out, you can watch, you can see, get unstructured credit, get a signature outside here and get 2 hours credit also. It is a structured credit, you can get it. And tomorrow, Dr. Girish Ahuja is speaking 6 to 8 webinar, taxation of real estate transaction. This is also hand-holding session from the angle of investors, from the angle of promoters, joint agreement if you are entering, or from the angle of investors, capital gains will be applicable, income from business for a promoter, so what are all the stages which has come now, and what are all the issues which is passed in the Finance Act, which is impact on the real estate transaction, will be dealt with by Dr. Girish Ahuja, 6 to 8 tomorrow. Then we have got CA Sunil Talati. He will be covering from the angle of promoters, real estate transactions, joint venture, how to do that, what is the procedure, how to protect, whether immediately, whether the capital gains will be attracted on the time of entering, what is the today's current scenario. If a promoter is coming, your individual investors, 5 grounds he buys in Madipakam. Now he is entering into a builder. Then what stage it will be there? When he has to pay? These are all practical things which you can listen to CA Sunil Talati, past president of ICI. He is coming to Chennai. He will be addressing tomorrow. And then on 29th, we have Formation and Taxation of Charitable Trust, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. In the disciplinary proceedings, we have found FCRA not registered, number not obtained, the designated bank account not maintained, like that so many instances which attract disciplinary proceedings. So this particular topic assumes a greater significance. We requested CA Kanagaraj Anthony Swami is coming and addressing. You are all fortunate, you are all in metro. There are places like Assam, interior area, where they cannot attend any program. Hilly area is there, Himachal Pradesh. People are scattered, they do practice. So this particular structured program, teleconference program, it is attended in full strength in smaller places. So for that benefit, you can also take advantage. And this foreign FCRA also, very, very important topic. Then we have on 30th, merger, demerger, acquisition, transaction advisory and due diligence, role of chartered accountants. I find the due diligence and transaction advisory services, what is being practiced in a multinational firm as a separate verticals. Although we are equipped, it is still, many of us are not taking up because the prescribed subject. Suppose assuming in the case of a raid, you may not have what is appraisal report, whatever, what is Panchanama, all those aspects may not be dealt in any textbook. We have to learn. We have to, by practice only certain things comes. Like that in due diligence also. If any of your clients wants to invest in a company, what are all the areas which is required? You all know there should not be a credit, there should not be outstanding, projected, whatever, things on the pipeline, what is the business contracts, all these things you know it, but in a summed up form, in a presentable form, in a CD when it is available, is nothing great like that. And if you follow our CPE programs, our webinars throughout the 50 weeks, if you have that CD, I am telling you, there is no need for you to attend any programs at all. And this type of budgets and all, we don't do it because it has got a limited shelf life, finance bill. These are all professional opportunity. If you want to have stock audit, you want to do stock audit, how to do it? How the limit, which are all the areas, how to do it for various industries, how to do the verification, book debts, how to do that. Whether it is a paid stock, even outstanding stock, whether he is entitled, what is the real thing, all these things is dealt with from the average practitioner's point of view. We don't want a very big expert, colon and semicolon and all, trying to have a interpretation and try to spend time. We don't want. You must know at a macro level, if a gentleman comes to you or if a bank coming to us, if they allot the stock audit, because you have to maintain an organization. You have to give articled assistance sufficient work. You must take paid assistance. You must increase your people. For that, you require certain work. Then only the billings will grow up. You will have the feeling that you are doing some economic activity. Sometimes letting out a big property, earning the money, depositing it also, it suffices for your, financially strong. But that is not the issue. The issue is how many people you are able to generate employment. How many people your banner is growing. For that, you must have a macro picture. It is not the question of certain issues alone. So, we are covering that merger, demerger, acquisition, transaction advisory and due diligence, role of CAs. We will dealt with Mr. Ramakrishnan, chartered accountant. He is doing the maximum in the city other than the multinational firm, partner of Santana Krishnan, Central Council member. And that firm is doing a lot of work, PKF, in the due diligence. So we have selected him and he will be giving a very comprehensive idea. It is up to you to attend the webinar program, sign and get the structured credit, buy the CD and get the unstructured credit. It is up to you. So there is no question of learning somebody in gunpoint, I never believe. But the idea is you must be well equipped, empowered to discharge your duties as a chartered accountant. So when it comes to this 5-day program, I request all of you, because there is no spot registration for people who want to get the credit, they can always use, and we have netted something around 25 lakhs by keeping this 300 and odd for 5 days. This is the money we have done it. Our CP is also chipping in. We have got corporates also ready to sponsor, and so this is a win-win situation to everybody. And it is I request all of you to enjoy the sessions, encourage Sunil Talati today. You find he is a director of so many companies, and he is going to speak on Companies Act and its implications on the practicing chartered accountants. See, there is no point you are going through the entire Companies Act. People will say it is harsh on CA, harsh on cost accountants, harsh on company secretary. That is what exactly the issue. So what are all the changes they have done it? If you go through the act, it will not be. It is, what is important is that very harmonious reading is necessary. What is this section? Read with that section. Like that it has to be seen. Otherwise, act is available, all our CAs, all we have passed it. But gently guiding you to go through rotation, what is the implications? What is internal financial controls reporting, what is the issue? As an independent director, what are all the issues? As a chairman of the audit committee, what are all the issues? If you are an auditor of a listed company, what are all the issues? If you are an auditor, most of you private limited companies will be auditing, means what are all the implications of this? Like that, segregating the topics and addressing and keeping that material will always go a long way in giving some sort of a confidence. You need not require to consult any seniors. When the materials are available, earlier people try to tell case laws without reading. But in practice, all those things not required. As long as a reference is there, if you have the PR skills, you have the necessary confidence, there is no need. Average age is coming down for everything. Council, representation, everything, Supreme Court, everything. What you require is the confidence, and material should be available with you. That will give the confidence. We are trying to do that. And today, the first one, we have a topic which is called fraud detection and forensic audit. In fact, Mr. Vittal Raj is one of the eminent chartered accountant who is focusing on this specific field. He said, sir, we are starting with fraud detection. I said, it is not how to do the fraud, it's a fraud detection. So it is positive only as such. And I told him that is how we have to start with. Why? In the Companies Act, the fraud should be reported. They say the responsibility is casted on the auditors. And materiality concept is also recognized now. And if it is a small, but still the fraud reporting, what is the role of the internal auditors? In fact, Mr. Vittal Raj, I have spoken, and a particular issue, what are all the risks associated, how the risk management and IT audit dimensions with reference to Companies Act also, he was mentioning to me, and I will also invite Mr. Vittal Raj to address that particular issue, not in this section, separately, so that it will be a great eye-opener for all of us as such. We are not specialists. Many of them will be generalists. So, but whatever general work which is coming, we must be able to handle. And this particular thing is it's a very focused area. And Mr. Vittal Raj, thank you very much, sir, for accepting. On behalf of each and every one of you present here, let me present a shawl to him. Say yourself, they say no, it's investment. You say investment, he will say speculation. Depends upon the revenue implication, they do it. What are all the circulars issued by CBDT? Under what circumstances it will be held as stock in trade? Under what circumstances it will be held as an investment? What is capital gains? What is income? Whether by magic wand he can change the thing, ignoring how you considered in your books of account, that will be dealt with by Banu Sekha, who is a very experienced and seasoned gentleman who is handling such type of cases in the appeals. Normally we cross these words in the assessment, they do it, revenue, whichever beneficial to the revenue, they do it. Under what circumstances, how you treat, at least you will win in the appeal. You must know it. That's why the gentleman who is dealing in many cases, such type of cases, I requested him. These are all for today. And tomorrow also we have Sunil Talati, Girish Aguja. Today Sandana Krishna also will be speaking. He is the chairman of the Corporate Laws Committee. He will be speaking on related party transaction, disclosure, rotation of auditors, whether it is credit exposure is there, private limited company, one-man company, dormant company, all those aspects which will be many of the medium SME chartered accountants will be handling, and TDS, which is a very important subject, Sunil Talati will be dealing, and accounts, financial audit and penal provisions. A very senior auditor from Delhi, he will be coming, and survey, search and seizure, and what is the practical issue relevant for chartered accountants by Girish Aguja, accounting for CSR expenditure under the Companies Act. Whether CSR expenditure, whether it is a charge, whether it is an appropriation, whether it is above the line item, below the line item, what is the accounting standard 29 says, whether in the income tax they say it is not a charge and it is not allowed as a deduction. So what are all the issues involved in CSR expenditure? We are coming out with a guidance note. I am the chairman of the research committee as well. So I'll be giving what is the practical thing, what is the institute, the current guidance note deals with, which is going to be released by our Honorable Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. We will be releasing our guidance note, and we will be dealing with those issues also. Art of preparation of project report for assured CA Vinay Mrityunjaya, who is the treasurer of Bombay Cricket Association and who is handling maximum number of project reports of very big companies. You will be coming from Bangalore and you will be addressing, and capital markets and derivatives by V. Pattabhiram. You will be speaking on that. There is a material also available. Bhanusekhar material has come, and we do have Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, Mr. Kanthaswamy, and many very interesting topics are there on wealth tax, how to prepare a wealth tax. That's important. Disclosures. In fact, whether wealth tax return is applicable or not, by doing it, what all you will be gaining, that we will be dealing with. And tax planning for salary assessees also. That's also important today, because you will be handling in terms of number. You require regular flow of the people. And the tax return preparer and all, finance ministry tried. Nobody is going. They have to come to chartered accountant today. And so many tax return preparers, they tried. Only thing is, on the Companies Act, slowly the company secretaries are gaining ground as such. Now it is, Sandana Krishna is playing a greater role there to ensure that we'll have a continued exposure. We have also told him what are all the professional opportunities from Companies Act 2013. He is in Delhi. You will also be joining, and you will be taxation of income from other sources, house property, and conversion from partnership firms to LLP. What are all the trends and planning strategies, and of course concurrent audit, stock audit, receivables audit, book debts audits will be dealt by a general manager of a public sector bank. And this is how we have streamlined. And we do have, in the last day, we'll have a Christmas cake also will be there. And New Year cake will be there. And we have got a lucky dips also. And you have a liberal CPE credit of 40 hours. You will be able to get it as such.
I take the privilege to introduce Vittal Raj. Vittal is a risk assurance and consulting expert and a trainer with over 25 years of experience working with the clients in a wide range of industry verticals on IT governance, cyber security, privacy, IT assurance, enterprise risk management, and risk-based internal audits. By qualification, Vittal is an FCA, DISA, CISA, CIA, CIPS, CGEIT, CISM, CRISC, CPE, and associated COVID-5 expert. He has consulted as strategic advisor to the board and senior management of various entities on IT strategy, GRC, IT security, systems and processes, and risk management strategies. Vittal is presently serving his second term as the International Vice President and Director on Global Board of ISACA USA and member of ISACA India Growth Task Force and advisor to the ISACA. Vittal is the founder and senior partner of Mrs. Kumar and Raj Chartered Accountants, where he leads and manages the business of IS Risk Assurance Service Practice. Vittal is a regular speaker at several international ISACA and other conferences and seminars worldwide and is an expert corporate trainer on IT governance and COVID, IT risk management, information security, IT auditing, enterprise risk management, enterprise risk-based internal audit, cyber crime forensics and fraud risk management. I present before you CAR Vittal Raj.
On behalf of each and every one of you present, on behalf of the CP committee, let me garland the speaker.
Thanks Murli and everyone here for having invited me. In fact, around the same time last year, I was here on the same topic. So if some of you have attended that last session, well, the principles remains the same, but the landscape of fraud has moved on like anything. I really did ask Murli, do you really want fraud as the opening topic? But then he had a good answer, as he said. In fact, that reminded me that possibly, if you really look at it, it is the darker side of the human being which actually brings out the brighter side. So from that perspective, all of us, if you see in this profession, actually deal with the darker side. Maybe not just in fraud. When we start looking at controls, we do have somewhere in the back of our mind the darker side of the human being. So we're going to deal this topic for maybe another 45 minutes, 1 hour, Murli? Okay. Okay, so the idea would be to just discuss on certain practical aspects, at the same time founding principles, but also to look at this as a very promising area of practice, those who want to pick it up. And believe me, we'll see that especially the emerging regulatory scenario is creating tremendous amount of opportunities. One, to reduce fraud, which is obviously the first and foremost step, but also significant emphasis on the timely detection and bringing to books of those who are perpetrating these frauds. So let's get into this session. In fact, there are a couple of surveys which I would suggest you can just Google and get it. This is one of the latest surveys which was just released just here in December, which is the Deloitte India Fraud Survey. Now the surveys kind of give some insight into what is a trend that's happening. So beyond that, well, these numbers can, it can be disputed, but at the same time, it does give some kind of trend. And if you start looking around you in reality, you'll see that it almost kind of corresponds to this trend. But I must say that when we really take the global scenario and put in context, now the careful wording is put in context the Indian scenario, remove maybe, the political side of it and look at corporate frauds, I would think that India has not fared very badly in terms of the recent times. When I say recent times, we are talking about 2 to 3 years. But that also raises the concern, and that's where the question was asked to many of these corporate leaders, saying that what do you think would be the trend ahead? And as you see here, almost 60% believe that this is going to rise. I would rather think this is going to rise is one aspect, but then there is already tremendous amount of fraud that's happening in many of the organizations. Only in fact last week, I had a very good friend who has been in risk-based internal audit, and he has served in his capacity as a chief risk auditor in almost about 6 countries. And he said, I am fed up. I said, why? He said, wherever I go, there is fraud. So my role of internal auditor has more become of a fraud detection specialist. And he says, that's not the frustrating thing. The frustrating thing is, ultimately, I am not able to do anything about it. Believe me, it's a revolution. And it kind of resonates what many of us who are witness to such things happening or have unearthed such things happening. And ultimately, if you really see what is the conclusion or what happens really in terms of the climax of this is not really very encouraging. Well, let's look at some of your views and then we'll go ahead. What do you think would be the top sectors affected by fraud in India? We'll talk about India. Real estate, very good. Banks, okay, excellent. Sorry, sir? Gold, okay. Jewelry, new design. Chit funds? Very good, okay. Anything else? I think if we were to go, you will name every industry I know. But then, this is what they came out. Many of you rightly said this. First and foremost is financial services. Because when money is the commodity, believe me, it's so easy to really see that the flow of. And second, as the youngster said, appreciate that, it's real estate and infrastructure. But third, which is quite, we see that we have had a tremendous kind of scores around this, is the social or the government sector. One of the areas, believe me, which is ripe with fraud is the NGO segment. Because prima facie, if you see, the end use is always kind of not auditable, if I can say, unless and until you know the way of auditing it. So there is tremendous amount of, routing of funds to the NGOs. That is where you will find that recent trends of tightening the controls around NGOs and all, which is, I think, absolutely right. And much of the terrorist money flows into the country through many of these NGOs and the kind of good-to-do people. Right? So let's take the second question. What do you think will be the top 3 categories of corporate frauds?
Employee fraud.
Employee fraud, okay.
Security fraud. Those who charge with governments. Directors fraud.
Directors fraud. Okay, we'll come to the perpetrator question little. We'll try to see the schemes of fraud which are popular.
Teaming and leading.
Teaming and leading, okay. Anybody else? Your experience of unearthing frauds or understanding frauds in your entities that you audit. What do you think is the easiest way to get money?
Third party.
Yes, sir?
Third party.
Come again?
Third party transactions.
Changing the transaction, you mean? Okay. Third party transaction, okay. Yes, sir? Window dressing, okay, very good. Let's look at what the people said. Number 1, they said is diversion, theft of funds or goods. I'm sure you will agree that when it comes to embezzlement, there's a tremendous amount of embezzlement that happens. In fact, ironically, you will find that much of the embezzlement happens in white collar circles when it comes to IT goods given by corporates. In fact, the guy leaves the organization and doesn't return the laptop. Well, you can term it as, okay, it's okay. But then it does tantamount to fraud because you're not supposed to have taken it. So, there are several things like this, right from the small things, because it is not the laptop that goes with the person, it is tremendous amount of organization information that leaves the organization. And of course, goods, in terms of theft of goods, believe me, I'm sure you have followed some of those frauds which happened last year. One of the largest retail outlets, which was there in news. They were in news for very wrong reasons, but then it was. And second, I don't think I need to elaborate, bribery and corruption. Corporate bribery and corruption is very much a living issue. In fact, large corporates, believe me, there is tremendous amount of corruption that happens, and that's one of the, I would say, the emerging trends wherein it is increasing rather than decreasing. The third, of course, is, if we start putting people into this category of, regulatory non-compliance being a fraud, you would find that you can start filling up almost everybody there. Because if you take the corporates, by default, many of us in practice, when a client approaches you, he says, I have this much budget for a tax. You tell me how to do it. It starts there. Or if he tells you, I forgot about all these things, but then this didn't get filed, that thing didn't get filed, tell me how to do that without paying fine. We didn't hold the meetings on time as required by law. Tell us how to go about doing things. Do you agree that happens? In fact, that's where I like Murli's idea. He says if we start policing professionals, I think that's the most vulgar thing to happen. It's true. I mean, if we are here as professionals and we know what to attend to, what we want to gain knowledge, it's perfectly right, I would say, to really leave it to the, our fellow professionals to take what they want and leave what they don't want. That's perfectly okay. But at the same time, if you really look at the call of the profession, if we do not update, we are at very serious risk. Believe me, the days are not very far off. Because increasingly, if you see the reputation of a chartered accountant over time, especially in our country, and now with the kind of global broadcast of whatever is happening there, not much happening, business happening in many other countries, they are looking to an investment destination here. And believe me, the first person that they meet when they really are serious about setting up business here is a chartered accountant. And it is the tenor and the culture that we kind of expose them to, that they also think about the country. So there is a huge responsibility on us in terms of really taking the right path there. Sometimes we do get into pressure. I know that many smaller towns, it is a said thing saying that, oh, this is the way of doing things. But that is where the governance lies with us to really change all this. And with the new government here, I think the culture that's emerging is absolutely welcome. Because otherwise it was taken as kind of a default saying that, well, this is the way to live. This is how things go. You can't change this. Don't try to change the system. So all that is changing. That's a great thing. And then we'll come to this question. Who are the top perpetrators of fraud? You said something. Board of directors. Do you agree with it? Well, he's absolutely right, because most of this, when they ask this question, who is the top fraudster? They said the board. And that resonates with my friend's view when he said, I am fed up because ultimately it leads to the board, and the audit committee whom I report to is an independent body, tells me, we'll take action, don't worry. You know what it means. So the perpetrator is the senior management, and that's what has come out in many of this, and I think we can go on listing this. Somebody said it right here, right? If you start putting those numbers together, you can build another India. Right? You know the coal scam? And one of the things that has been happening recently, a large corporate fraud, the Mumbai airport, right? These are just examples. We can go on and on and on in terms of number of frauds. But then that's a sad situation we are in. Because that kind of also puts the culture of a civilization as to where it is tending to largely. And that is where, in fact, as professionals, in this particular branch of the discipline, I think we have a great responsibility to make sure that we slowly nudge them towards the right kind of culture. And that's where, if you really see the way we deal with frauds, believe me, in fraud, with whatever little experience I have had in investigation, some of them, a determined criminal will always get his way. You cannot stop him. And believe me, there are liars who are professional liars. And the way they will lie, believe me, you can never find out. You can never find out. Because they have an excellent way of really mixing the chemistry and the physics together in such a manner that they will convince you that this is what it is. So that is where when all this topic, when we discuss about, frauds have been there. Frauds will go on. But then, the important is not about finding frauds. That's one aspect which is certainly going to be there. But also preventing frauds and trying to see that they are managed well. So we'll discuss about all this. But then prima facie, all of us know that when come to this country, professional opportunities come from regulation. Yes. If the regulation says this got to be done, everybody has to do it. Right? So let us look at the first aspect of it, which is the Companies Act, the new Companies Act, or the emerging corporate governance regime, if I can more broadly call it, and see with regard to fraud, with regard to systems and processes, what are the stipulations that are coming ahead? Murali was talking about the roles of various bodies or various stakeholders who are engaged as part of this governance system. And believe me, this is where you have, if you look at, there is tremendous responsibilities now cast. Not that the earlier corporate law did not have all this, it had all this. But now it has been more exemplified, and the punishments are very, very specific. So let's look at some of them. With regard to the board, the prima facie responsibility is put on the board to ensuring the integrity of the company's accounting, financial reporting systems, including independent audit. Now, I'll just stop here. How many companies do you think have a true internal audit system? When I say true internal audit system, where the internal auditor's views are taken very seriously, and they don't look at mere transaction audit, but they're looking at something which focuses on telling them where are the kind of dark areas. Very few. Very, very few organizations actually attach importance to internal audit, but believe me, internal audit is such an area wherein those of us who want to really venture into, it is difficult to get the management buy-in immediately because they have been used to that culture. When they are used to a particular way of doing things, well, they say, okay, what's internal audit? Nothing. But that is where our role is to take the newer concepts of internal audit, which is the risk-based internal audit approach, and bring to them, because believe me, we as auditors have a position which no other person has in the organization, no other professional has in the organization. An auditor can walk down right to the gate, he can ask questions to the security guy, you can walk right up to the boardroom and ask questions, you can exchange views. But the attitude has to be more towards one who is looking at an objective view rather than one who is trying to find fault, because that is where the whole problem really starts coming in. So when we start looking at fraud, the fraud actually we need to look at it more from the terms of the systems and the controls. So that is where it talks about the board's responsibility of appropriate system of controls are in place. And in particular, this is where now the regulation says, this is with regard to the recent amendments for listed companies by SEBI clause 49. So of course this is resonated in the Companies Act, which we'll see a little later. It talks about the system for risk management, financial operational control, protecting against fraud and compliance with the law and relevant standards. So the compliance with law and standards, as we saw, is equivalently a fraud if it is not complied with, obviously with regard to the intent of what is being done. And also we see that the system of risk management needs to be there. Simply putting in a system of risk management which the top management does not believe in is a disaster ab initio. It's not going to work, we know that. And that is where we saw the perpetrator of frauds really start coming in. Audit committee, tremendous amount of responsibilities cast on independent directors and audit committees, because they need to ensure and they have to constantly review the risk management, internal controls over financial reporting and fraud reporting. All of them are something which the audit committee has to be seized about, and they have to make sure they are completely on it. And there are specific responsibilities with regard to the role of the independent director defined under the New Companies Act, wherein it demands of them to actually take on some of these responsibilities. Of course, the CEO, CFO, as we know in most of these listed companies, there is a requirement for certification by these individuals with regard to the adequacy of internal controls, and also quite a lot of expansive assertion saying that whether there is any fraud, whether the systems are adequate, are there any indicators of fraud. In fact, we'll see that little more as we go into that. And as Murali was saying, the auditor's responsibility when the act was introduced was one of the things that sent a scare across the community, because originally, if you see the way it was introduced, the statutory auditor was responsible for reporting every kind of fraud, irrespective amount. So that is where the serious problem came in. Fortunately, the new amendment which has come in now has kind of fixed it. At least they are going to say that there is a direction of fixing this threshold beyond which the auditor should report to the central government. Earlier, it just said you have to report to the central government, but never said what will be the limit. Right? Now, at least it is laying down the limit beyond which it has to go to the central government, and below which it has to certainly get reported to the audit committee. right? So this is where the roles are actually now transforming and changing. Now again, let us look at specifics with regard to listed company requirements arising from the company law. As we see, section 134 now demands that the director's responsibility statement has to be annexed to every annual report. And with regard to listed companies, of course every company has to do it, but with regard to listed companies, it is a specific requirement wherein it says they have to assert, saying that they have laid down a good system of internal financial controls. Believe me, these internal financial controls under the new act has to be understood very carefully as statutory auditors.